Are you a woman in the corporate world striving to break barriers, challenge unconscious bias, and lead the way for women in leadership roles globally? If so, this is the podcast for you. Introducing Leading Ladies Who Lunch. The lunch hour is usually the time when colleagues get together for real, honest conversations about work, life, and everything in between. In each episode of Leading Ladies Who Lunch, we'll delve into insightful discussions and share actionable strategies to help you navigate corporate life. Co-hosted by me, Cicy George, a leadership development architect and inspirational speaker. I'm thrilled to share my experience and expertise on leadership, mentorship, and organizational intelligence to help you own your career.
And me, Rachel Lowndes, CEO and founder, imposter syndrome expert, and mindset coach at Rachel Lowndes Coaching and Consulting. Passionate about helping women conquer imposter syndrome and unleash their inner confidence to get the recognition and promotions they deserve.
Jam-packed with insightful conversations, expert advice, and inspiring stories from a diverse group, we'll explore how to overcome obstacles, shatter those glass ceilings, and build unshakable mindsets to unlock your true potential. So whether you're sipping a coffee or enjoying a meal at your desk, tune in for a no-host bar lunchtime chat. Episodes will be dropped every 2 weeks. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, one conversation at a time.
Hello, welcome back to the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. Rachel, so great to see you. Every time we see each other and catch up, I just feel like I'm literally outside the office having lunch with you. So this is awesome.
Oh, pleasure is all mine, Cicy. I'm really looking forward to our chat today, as always.
You know, the other day I was looking at my LinkedIn feed and I came across this quote by one of my favorite authors, Maya Angelou. And the quote reads, "A wise woman wishes to be no one's enemy. A wise woman refuses to be anyone's victim." And I felt that.
Yeah.
I think instinctively it brought me back to a memory that I'm happy that we have time that I can share it with you today. When I was working for this one female boss I had a few years back, and how a single experience with someone can completely change your outlook.
Oh, this sounds intriguing. A wise woman refuses to be anyone's victim. What a great quote. I love it when a quote ignites a memory or a life-changing moment. So yeah, looking forward to hearing this one.
Oh, and this story is a doozy. When I tell you that the quote brought me back to the memory, and I say that I felt it, I literally could picture myself back in that seat all those years ago. All the feelings I had just came rushing in, the ahas, the stress, the frustration. It just seriously all came rushing or gushing back into me. And when it came rushing back to me, I started to think, why do some female leaders, bosses, managers, whatever you want to call them, hold some of us back? Camaraderie among females is historically, I think, what's made us even stronger. Whenever I started a new job, if I knew my future boss or manager was female, I was excited. I had looked forward to building a bond with that person, learning from her, she's probably been in my shoes before. I've had very few female bosses who were also women of color.
Right.
Which you also think contributes to that excitement, right? And I would always think that would give us even more common ground, to align on. But being women of color, it didn't necessarily guarantee that it would be a match made in boss protege heaven, does it now?
Oh, no, I can totally relate to that. I mean, I've had a few opportunities to work with female bosses across my career, some good, some not so good. And I found that ones in higher positions were the ones that I had the most hope for. Like, yes, this person's really going to inspire me. I cannot wait to work with them.
Right?
I found myself feeling most let down by these people. And by that, I mean that they seem to be more against me than helping build me up, which is super disappointing, right? And I thought that, we're supposed to be in this together, a bit like what you're just saying. And I discovered that this isn't always the case, but maybe I put too much faith in people.
No, no, same. I'm right there with you. I suppose I probably put too much faith in them too. So a few years back, I was in this one particular role,
Right,
and this female leader, she had asked me to join her team. She took a liking to me.
right.
And there's a little bit of flattery that comes with that, right? When you feel like a senior leader has taken a liking to you, it's
Yeah.
sort of like you're back in high school and like the guy, the
Yep.
popular kid
Yeah,
likes
get
you,
picked
right?
team. Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh. It is the same exact thing.
Hmm.
So when I first met this woman, I wasn't looking to join her team. In fact, when I initially connected with her, I was thinking, perhaps maybe she could be a mentor to me and we can just get to know each other.
Yeah.
She was a senior leader in the organization. She was a woman of color. And I genuinely thought this would be, like I said, a mentoring opportunity. And maybe she could pass on some of her some of her pearls of wisdom and
Yeah.
things she's learned, and maybe make some introductions and connections for me.
Mm.
So like a mentoring relationship.
Yeah.
As we got to know each other, she saw my passion for mentoring and leadership development. And a few months later, she asked me to join her team.
Right.
So I would be reporting directly to her.
Yeah.
Now, she was a very senior leader in the organization. So
Right.
to tell you that I was excited, well, I was beyond excited because when you're working in an organization so large and you're being given a position of, I don't want to call it importance, I'll call it exposure.
Right.
That was a huge thing for me back then.
Mm.
So I was really excited. She was someone that I admired, I respected her, and I thought, at the best, I thought this role would lead me to where I needed to get to be in the organization.
Mm.
Rachel, I was really wrong.
Oh no.
So a few months later, I joined that team. COVID hit bad, right?
Oh, right.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Right.
COVID hit, and she had to restructure her team.
Okay.
So a few months after COVID hit, her and I have, kind of a routine catch up. She gives
Hmm.
me a call and she says, "All right, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to put you on this other person's team."
Oh, eh?
Yeah, and I didn't know there was a restructuring coming. So when
Right.
she said, "I'm going to put you on this other person's team," I was shocked.
Yeah.
But the first thing I thought of was, okay, so like, what does this mean for my career, right? And
Mm.
that's what I asked her.
Mm.
She said, "Okay, so what are your thoughts?" And I just said, "Well, okay, so here's what I'm wondering. I'm just wondering, so what does this mean for my career?" And
Yeah.
she kind of goes, "Well, what do you mean?" So I tried to rephrase the question. I thought it was pretty clear.
Pretty
And I
clear.
said, "Well, what does that mean for my career and development trajectory?" I mean, I just restated what I said.
Yeah.
Her reaction was, it came out of left field. I was not expecting this at all.
Right.
She says that she's like, "I'm not sure where this is coming from. I feel like you're blindsiding me,
Oh,
and then she actually says to me, "I don't know what's going on with you right now, Cicy. Maybe you're reaching a certain age, so you feel like you should be at a certain level or something."
wow.
Rachel, I was horrified by what she said, but I was also humiliated. Like, who
Yeah.
talks like that? And
Mm.
what does my age
Yeah.
have to do with it?
I got to do
Right?
and your question. Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure what the relevance of age to my question was. I'm really confused.
Yeah. Defend.
So in that moment, just picture this, in that moment, here's this female leader who I had up on this pedestal,
Mm.
who I wanted to like, and I thought she liked, I wanted to like her. I liked her. I wanted her to like me.
Yeah.
I thought she did. I guess I wanted to follow in her footsteps, or I wanted to be really close to her. And that's how she talks to me. That's how she speaks to me. I
Mm.
was really shocked. This is not what I would have expected of that conversation. And, I'm trying to give her grace, right? If she was having an off day or she wasn't prepared to have that conversation, she could have said, you know what? I think this is a conversation that I'd like to revisit after
Mm.
I've given it some time to
Yeah.
prepare my thoughts and to share my plan with you or whatever. I'm just saying that's like a normal response,
Mm.
not unlike what I got. I got, wait, wait, wait. She chose to attack me in that moment when all I asked was, so what does this mean for my career?
That's not cool. I mean, you're simply asking for clarification and reassurance. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, obviously, COVID did put a lot of pressure under people. So she perhaps didn't react in a way that maybe she could have in other circumstances. We don't know. But I mean, yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with asking, hey, what does this mean for me right now?
Right,
Because she's brought you into a team and kind of given you a bit of a promise and an expectation. And then suddenly you're kind of ambushed with this new information and no kind of like, here's why. I mean, I just don't think it's unreasonable for you to ask that at all.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, she's the one who chose to have the conversation with me. She gave me a space to speak up, and
Mm.
then I did. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like I even asked her, oh no, you have to promote me and you have to do this. It was just, so what does
What,
this mean for me?
what does this mean? Yeah.
Right,
Perfectly reasonable question. Also, the age thing, outrageous.
right.
Where do we go with that one?
Um, yeah, well, definitely not to HR. That's why I said that Maya Angelou quote that I referenced earlier.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that story, and I'll tell you why. I didn't want to be her enemy.
Mm.
I definitely was not going to become her victim.
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm.
Now, I was devastated by the conversation, and I swore to myself that I would work really hard and I would make something wonderful of my career on my own terms.
Yeah.
And I eventually did transition to that new team that she told me about. And, I went on to that team. I did some great work there, which she herself did compliment me on
Hmm.
until I found an opportunity outside the company. So I had to give in my notice.
Right.
After I told my manager I was leaving, so get this, my manager actually tells me something that my old boss said to her during
Right.
the transition.
Okay.
She said, watch out for Cici. She didn't get a promotion, so she might be disengaged.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, who says something about an employee that's going to another team, right? What normal human being would sully your name like that? And for what reason? And that was all the proof I needed to know that me leaving altogether, well, that was the right decision.
Wow. I actually am shocked by that, but am I? I don't know. There's people, I mean, I have heard of this type of stuff before, and I mean, it's a bit backstabby, isn't it? Like, what's the necessity to do
Yeah,
that? You know,
exactly.
Yeah, but it's not uncommon. I can imagine many of our listeners have experienced something similar to this. I myself have been sidelined by a few female bosses, and actually I know of two who actively sought and succeeded in pushing me out of the business.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I still to this day cannot tell you why, except that I had an underlying feeling that they just didn't like me. Right.
What?
So whatever happened to working with someone to help them grow into a role or a place you need them to be on your team? Without direction and being left to your own devices, you can only do what you can do. And it's unfair to push someone out purely because you don't like them. That's personality, right?
Right,
I understand you don't want bad apples on your team, but there's a difference between like a personality clash and someone's ability to do the work. You can work those things out, just go for a coffee,
right.
right? But it seems for that particular manager that you've been talking about didn't really consider the impact that her move was having on you. And instead of seeking to understand, why you felt the way you did, which perfectly reasonable for you to do so, they took it as a personal attack, got defensive, and then turned it into a you problem. It's you're the problem. And,
Hmm.
and also like took it further by saying something to someone else I mean, that's just triangulation. That's not cool. But, sadly, this does happen in business. And in an absence of feedback or mentorship can lead to a downward spiral of self-doubt, low self-esteem, and low self-confidence. But it seems that you bounce back really well. So that's it. But that's not always the case for a lot of people, unfortunately.
You're right. I know this probably has happened to a lot of women just like me, and it continues to happen. And not that everyone has to like us.
No.
I do feel that you need to give people a fair shot.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
not
unrealistic to think that people are going to like you. Everyone's going to like
right,
you. We don't like
right. And
everybody, right?
exactly. And that's okay. Like, look, that's what makes the world go round, right? That's
Yeah.
totally fine. I'm not
Yeah.
looking to make best friends here,
Mm.
but not attack people the first opportunity you get, you
Mhm.
know?
Mm.
The day before I left, so the story gets even better. The day before I left, she scheduled a virtual meeting with me.
Right.
Get on the call. The first thing she says is, I just want you to know, I am not at all surprised by this.
What does she mean by that?
It's a classic response of her just being bitter. That's how I
Oh,
saw it.
okay.
So
Right.
I mean, that tells me two things. First, you're bitter.
Mm.
And second, if you saw this coming and you did nothing about it, that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You keep telling me how amazing I am.
Mm.
So you're just okay with an amazing, talented professional leaving your team.
Yeah.
That's on you. That's not on me.
Yeah, that's definitely their fault. Yeah.
So that experience, it did teach me a few things, in hindsight, it's 2020. If
Mm-hmm.
it weren't for maybe some other examples of great female leaders I've had, I
Mm.
would say female bosses are more a foe than friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have this one female leader as a direct boss, and she did a lot of things right that I'm thankful for. But when I think about this story that I've shared with you,
Mm.
and where that, this female boss is definitely more foe. Here's what I learned about that experience.
Yeah.
First, I have to use my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I often wondered how that experience could have looked differently
Mm.
if all I did was challenge what she was saying at that moment and spoke up. In the moment, I needed to advocate for myself by not letting her talk to me in such a way.
Yeah.
But I didn't,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I sat there silently, accepting it. And in moments like that, my realization was it's so critical to speak
Mm-hmm.
up and stand up for yourself.
It's scary as well. I mean, a
It
lot of
is. It takes courage.
it does take courage, yeah. And doing
I'm
it in
working
a
on
way
it.
that is kind of constructive as well. That's a skill. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm working on this. The second thing I'll add is it was a realization that I should never let someone else be in charge of my career trajectory.
Mm.
I thought by being on her team, it would be great exposure, a great opportunity, all leading to some fairy tale dream job,
Yeah.
a promotion of some sort eventually, not right away.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting to be promoted, the second I got to the team, but I was expecting that she would be invested in helping me on my way
Yeah.
to eventually getting to some really great career move. And that was wrong. So that's on me, right? I have to own my career and really take charge of where it needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important point because we can load our expectations onto someone else when it comes to what our career and future looks like. In reality, it's no one else's responsibility but ours. I
Hmm.
realized that too after some disappointing experiences in my career. I had to take the wheel and put, the rough coordinates into the GPS to start navigating to where I wanted to be in a more conscious way. And sure, there may be some lost turns and dead ends on the way, and that's kind of what you're talking about here. But that's part of the fun, and those decisions have been mine, so I get to learn what works and what doesn't. I too learned that speaking up for what I want and advocating for myself and not taking feedback that is personal rather than objectively about my performance or ability is more useful. Doing these two things alone have been a massive thing in rebuilding my confidence.
Right, right, Rachel. Never loading our expectations for our career onto someone else, taking the wheel and going at it yourself.
Mm,
And yes, you can't take feedback as a personal attack. I'm right there with you. So
yeah,
now when I work with female leaders, oh, I speak up. I'm a
right.
lot more vocal about what I want in my career. I share what's on my mind, and I don't accept being spoken to in that way again. So
Mm,
speaking up, owning your voice is so important for your brand, especially when you're working with another female.
mm,
Own who you are, girlfriend.
yeah.
I'll also say that when you're working with a female boss, and maybe they're giving you a hard time, get to know them as people too. Ask about what matters to them and why they chose to be in a leadership position. When you find out details like that, you get a sneak peek into their psyche, which helps in terms of how you manage that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about being combative here or creating conflict, right? These are people at the end of the day, and leadership isn't
Mhm.
always easy. So, building relationships definitely goes a long way to helping create a better experience at work overall. Invest in the relationship. What's it worth to you in the end?
Exactly. Speak up for what you want, as well as challenge what others say about you, and get to know your female boss personally as much as they can possibly let you.
Yep, yep, yep. Totally agree.
Awesome. This has been amazing, Rachel. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. If you like this episode, we would be so grateful if you can share it with your friends and tag us on social media at Leading Ladies Who Lunch. Your reviews of this podcast mean so much to us. We'd love it if you can rate it and subscribe to the show.
Remember, you can find us and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Subscribe to stay up to date with the latest episodes and follow us on Instagram at Leading Ladies Who Lunch.
Tune in 2 weeks where we will be talking all about imposter syndrome in a very special two-part series.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not going to want to miss this, so be sure to tune in.
Amazing. Really looking forward to that one. Until then, stay sassy, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the empowering journey at the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our insightful discussions, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories that we break down during each episode. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Leading Ladies Who Lunch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And remember, the conversations you've heard on this podcast are just the beginning of your journey. Let your voice be heard, inspire change, and continue breaking barriers as you lead with authenticity, resilience, and unwavering determination.
Until next time, keep embracing your leadership potential, challenging the norms, and shaping a better world for women in the workplace. Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, changing lives.